Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And now, it's time!
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to The Late Show. And today's hosts are John Fontaine, top left. Let's move Mr. Qaisi, top right. I'm at the bottom, deservedly. It's a race to the bottom after all. And we'll be joined throughout the live by other guests and contributors. Some you will recognize, inshallah, and some will be first-time visitors, honoring us with their presence. Now, subhanAllah, we had a set of things lined up as advertised, and then so many other things happen just on a daily basis that it's difficult to keep up. We don't just want to comment and give a reaction in the way an influencer might or someone on social media might. We want to, inshallah, as much as Allah allows us and blesses us with the ability to do so, to lay down some principles, to lay down some Islamic foundations by whichever controversy, whichever talking point comes across the Muslim's purview, then he or she can posit it within their Islamic understanding, their Islamic framework, and know how to act or not in response to that thing, and what, if anything, it has in terms of impact upon their iman, their strengthening of their iman, and their growth within Islam. That's the idea, what we hope to do. At the end of the day, we are talking about Muslims because we care for them, including those who we may, in a quote-unquote, refute, because we want their rectification. If it was not the case that we wanted the betterment of our brothers and sisters, including those who we may be harsh with from time to time, we would simply ignore them. We would continue upon our way. But we see good in all of these brothers and sisters, especially when they associate themselves with Sunni Islam, with Orthodox Islam, even wearing occasionally the tag Athari or Salafi, or the one I don't like for various reasons. We don't want to get into Hanbali because it's somewhat of a cop-out. Anyway, that's enough of me as by way of introduction. I want to jump straight into some clips, and then we'll all talk about the clips, and then shall we lay these foundations.
A preface before this video starts that Lady Logic and God Logic, both of these individuals are disgusting blasphemers who have insulted the honor of the Prophet, peace be upon him, countless times. So do not feel any ounce of sympathy towards these individuals.
But having said that, it's not the only thing being desecrated, the Quran, because actually Mr. Avery's wife's been desecrated herself, hasn't she? Let's take a look at this video and come back and respond in kind.
Holy whore!
All of the things that you guys are looking for. In fact, we believe we have everything you're looking for.
So as you can see here, Orthodox, this has been unorthodox for this lady here. She's had an unorthodox formative experience.
Very unorthodox video.
And then you've got Mr. Avery here, who's talking about women's rights. He's got a woman who's essentially with her, with her sister. She's touching herself and saying, "We've got everything you want." I don't know if this is an incestuous thing. I don't know if they're together.
It very well could be. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, I didn't tell you about this.
Yeah.
But she has pictures of her online in bikinis.
Who has this?
Avery's wife.
who has the pictures?
It's her. She's posted it.
Why?
Maybe Avery's not enough. I don't know. Maybe he's not enough.
But you're hitting one of them. You're raping one of them. The other one's a whore. What the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on here?
So, guys, that was the start. Oops, sorry, I've just removed the wrong thing. That was perhaps the start. We have to start somewhere in the timeline. Of course, there's been a back and forth, including with ourselves and non-Muslims and the same kind of people that these brothers and sisters will be responding to. But we have to start somewhere. And this is where we see this kind of descent into degeneracy. descent into slut-shaming, potentially, and we don't need to show those, but revenge, slut-shaming, if you like, revenge porn against sisters, whether using AI or actual images and videos and clips, which again, we're not going to show. And it was our concern at the beginning that what this will do, it will provoke something which is far more evil. Whatever good you attain, however good you feel by dissing the disbeliever in such a way, the consequence is something which could potentially be, and in this case has been, far more egregious. Just by way of one tweet, this is how that video was ratioed with what? So he posted that the non-Muslim guy's wife is a whore, and then he had this non-Muslim say, wow, these Dawah clowns are calling God Logic's wife a whore, when Muhammad's mother was literally, and I don't even want to say it. And then this video was ratioed, meaning it was viewed, an accusation of the Prophet ﷺ's mother, A'udhu billah min dhalik, astaghfirullah for even having to repeat it, was a SEX worker. It was ratioed, it had much more views than this video. What did you expect? Honestly, what did you expect? And the thing is, we told these brothers, we've been telling them for 5 years, not this new brother on the scene, Orthodox, but the other guys, I myself have been telling them for years, you don't do this. There's a Quranic prohibition against this, because when you insult the gods or the sacred symbols of the disbelievers, the action and reaction can be equal and opposite, or even far more egregious.
I think everyone knows it's for entertainment. Like I just like you know what I mean. Like if we're gonna comment on it, these brothers they're not taking the discussion seriously. They're laughing and they're hitting each other like like kind of making it like a mockery in a scene and like a movie type of thing. And the people are going to be watching it and laughing, and Muhammad Jabir is going to be laughing as well, and everyone's going to be laughing, and that's great and all right. But I just don't think that, because they don't take the whole thing serious, and obviously they know that there's going to be a reaction. This is how it goes, right? They attack certain things that these people hold dear, so they attack what we hold dear. So it's really a question of what do you take this seriously, and if you do take it seriously, do you care about the things that will come from it? And do you care that the Prophet's mother will be insulted, that the companions will be insulted from the women, that your own wife will be insulted, etc., 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 and other Muslim women that are found in the scene, generally, maybe like certain people or that work in da'wah, their wives, etc. So that's the question. Does he care or does he not care?
Yeah, and this is obviously, for those who don't know, again, we always assume that we have a fresh audience, and they may not know, including the brothers involved, that this is a direct contravention of a command of Allah when He says, وَلَا تُصُبَّ الَّذِينَ يَدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ, and do not insult those they invoke other than Allah, meaning the sacred symbols of the disbelievers, the false gods of the disbelievers, lest they insult Allah in enmity without knowledge. And then it mentions that the deeds have been made pleasing to the people, like they think this is something good. And Qurtubi comments on this, and I posted this comment in reaction to these brothers, where he said the ruling remains, this forbidding from insulting the deities of the disbelievers, those held sacred by the disbelievers, remains in effect among this ummah in all circumstances. So when the disbelievers are in a position of strength and it's feared they will revile Islam or the Prophet of Allah, mighty and majestic is Allah, then it is not permissible for a Muslim to revile their crosses or their religion or their churches, or to do anything that would lead to such like, because that is tantamount to provoking and inciting towards sin. And Qatada said, and similar to this principle, the tarkul maslaha limafsada arja minha, the abandoning or refraining from pursuing what's in the interest of the Muslims to avoid something which is a greater harm. So it's in the interest, it's a good thing that you mock the disbeliever when they are behaving in a particular way, or when they have this kind of enmity towards you, then they deserve to be rebuked. But this good has to be refrained from if it leads to a greater evil. And what was the example Qatada said, and he's mentioning this in the first reference to the ayah. He said, as is reported in the Sahih, to which the Prophet said, "Mal'un man sab walidayhi." The cursed is the one who reviles his parents. He reviles his own parents. And when the companions asked the Prophet ﷺ, how is it that a person can revile their own parents? And the Prophet ﷺ explained, the man abuses the father of another man, so that man that reviles his father or abuses his father in retaliation. And he reviles the other man's mother, so then that other man reviles or abuses his mother in retaliation. And bear in mind, we're talking about those outside the immediate confrontation. So when you attack another person's wife or their mother, she's outside the realm of your debate, your discussion. So you bring in a third party in there. And so when you bring the third party, of course, then they will attack the third party. They won't attack our wives or our women folk. They don't know who they are. Who they will attack is the wives of the messenger. So some of the women folk who are more precious to us than otherwise, such as the mothers of the believers. And this provocation is extremely, extremely dangerous.
I think that's Avery's wife. Oh. Wait a minute, is that Avery's wife there? Wait, hold on, wait a minute, wait. Before you put her on. Wait up. This is very surprising. What is that you? Wait a minute. Let me just double check. Let me see. Before I put you on, Avery's wife is in the back by the looks of it, guys. Avery's wife is in the back. Yeah, you heard it right. Can we double check that's her? Can we see is it her? It's definitely her. Okay. Wow. So I know why she's here. Oh, wait a minute. What? Wait. I think I know why she's here. Wait a minute. Avery's wife is here? I think I know why she's here. I think I know what it is. All the talk that we were saying before. Wait a minute, what is it? I think that she wants to protest. And she wants to beseech me. She wants to ask me about the copyright strike. Is that right? Is that what you want to do? Is that what you want to do? You want that? But before I put you on, this is the question you're going to answer, Avery's wife.
He basically tells them to get on their knees.
In one way.
Her and the other Christians. So again, yes, it's entertaining. It's funny to an extent, but they're talking about people who are engaging with Muslims regularly, knowing that these people have no scruples and that they will take revenge in any way they can. And this provocation is forbidden in Islam if you know the result. And of course, you know what's going to happen. And they responded with streams where they just, for hours, a lot of the Christian evangelists got together and they were just reading about the Prophet's wives, his marital relations, and and this is how it goes on. And the response, all of this came, of course, after this doxing, this word doxing, going into, as they mentioned in the videos, going into, so someone's got some bikini pictures. Yeah, as they say, mushuklak, it's none of your business. If someone's got some bikini pictures and they're a non-Muslim from 10 years ago, why is that your business? Why do you need to get into someone, get access to an Instagram account or a Snapchat from 10 years back and pull out those, sordid pictures? Why is that anyone's business? Why is it a Muslim's business, let alone for other non-Muslims to talk about? What's it got to do with us? What's this got to do with dawah? Here's the point, going back to what the point Casey was making. We all get that it's entertaining, but you're claiming to be representing Islam. And we see, subhanAllah, something happened, and this is where maybe this shady, shadowy figure of Dr. Malik comes into it. There was a point where the brother was against this, but then decided that he would go for it. Check this out.
So we're not allowed to post those pics yet?
No, brother, you can't post them at all. It's haram, bro. What are you talking about?
Okay, bro. I publicly disassociate from.
If you post these, this is like posting corn, bro.
No. Okay. Yeah. It's deleted. Whatever. It's not posted.
Don't post nothing.
A few moments later.
That's why I'm going to tell Logic, I'm going to have some people reach out to him to apologize publicly for the things he and his wife say about the Prophet and say that he won't blaspheme anymore. And if he doesn't do it, we're releasing the files. We need her to come out and condemn it. We need her to come out and say, I, Christina, I condemn myself for doing on Twitter.
You know, hey, listen, brother. In this religion, I follow, not the pussy one you follow. We don't have something called turn the other cheek.
So there, for some strange reason, there was initial agreement that it's haram to post these scantily clad images of a Christian's wife, and then suddenly, later on, it was decided we are going to post them. And I'm not going to show the actual images, although I'm sure many people following this unfortunate drama have already seen them, but I will show some redacted versions just so you can see the justification, or rather the commentary that this guy gives as he posts them. So he says, well, you can see for yourself, basically. So this is this Dr. Malik character, and it's in response to these Christians calling some of the sisters ISIS Houris. We'll explain where this term has come from, and so I've covered it out. But he's basically posting, this is a Muslim now, in defense of these brothers and sisters, attacking Christians by posting pictures from 10 years ago from some doxed accounts, which show these women half naked. Again, another one. You won't see anything, don't worry, we're going to keep it clean, even though it is a late show. But just so you can understand, you can see the justification. Threats, oh, I like where this is going. Be the reason I do my next big drop. His drop of doxed images. Again, because they call Korah Huri and so on and so forth. So the Christians are taunting them after, bear in mind, after all this thing already happened. And then they are responding by saying, well, we're going to get filthy. We're going to sink down even further. I'll just show one more. Again, not because we care about what's been shown, but rather how it's justified. It's justified as if this is something Islamic. Again, worst day in Dawah history, but then Dr. Malik said, hold my beer, and started Dawah pimping service with these two Houris, and he mentions two sisters' names. Huri, you say? And then again, he shows this. So why is it that this brother seems to be in charge of certain sisters? This is, again, something I can't seem to figure out. And here we have, just by way of example.
Hamza, thank you so much for coming on, and shout out to Brother Malik for reaching out and setting it up. You know, special shout out to Brother Malik for bringing us together. He's been really good with joining the female DAWAH for sure. So
you've seen there that right at the center of all of this filth flan is this Dr. Malik guy. Who is Dr. Malik guy? He's a self-styled musician. I'm going to play, if you bear with me, audience, 13 seconds of a video, of a music video. It's not explicit, other than it's you know, innuendos. But
you really shining, baby. Let me slip it in. Look all in my eyes and baby, tell me what it is. You say you wanted the artist, I wanted the goddess. I guess we both found what we looking for.
Shocking. It seems like you're a fasik, maybe a monafik, maybe an agent provocateur. But yeah, I can't make sense of that. In the words of nature boy Ric Flair, what in God's green earth is causing all this? I don't understand. Someone needs to explain to me how you can criticize or you can shame, try to slut shame a Christian's wife for how she dressed 10 years ago, when you on your videos today have the similar kind of hip-hop whores. You as a Muslim have the same thing going on around you, but somehow this is shameful for a Christian's wife. I just don't get it. I really don't understand. This is why they're saying it's they're using the word pimp. He's pimping these sisters, of course, in a metaphorical sense. We don't believe in any literal sense, but where is the inkar al-munkar for this? How is it that you've got all of these beaded brothers, niqabbed sisters, having someone like this represent them. Maybe clearly he's jahil, and and I want to say, perhaps give him the extreme benefit of the doubt that he truly is aggrieved when his sisters are attacked, when they're mocked by Christians. So he wants to, or he thinks this is some kind of jihad, as warped as that is, by fighting back and humiliating them. But and clearly he doesn't care about halal and haram. So put that aside. We're not talking about halal haram for now. Just in terms of common sense, how do you help? How do you defend a Muslim sister who's attacked by getting called a huri or being called an ISIS babe or whatever? How does that help them when you yourself are only encouraging worse by showing, what the brother called porn? How does that rationally explain to me, brothers? Can you explain to me?
I can explain it. I think there's a logic behind it that's extremely, based on intelligence and complexity and everything like that. He's basing it on the idea that he knows promiscuous women. He deals with them. So he's like, when you attack that sister, no, she's not like that. I really know these people in real life, and I interact with them and I have dealings with them. So we need to keep things in check. We need to keep things factual. So he knows how certain women that, like, let's say, they are promiscuous or have the deal in certain things. He deals with them, so he knows it best. He has experience with it. So I think that's the logical angle of it. But yeah, nothing surprising from someone like this, right? He has no.
I mean, it's kind of like you said, like a mafia enforcer. I mean, every community has them, but there's a line. So, I mean, I'll just give one anecdote from myself. When I was in one part of Eurasia, and I had this device, an item that was very important to me. It was my only link to the outside world. And there was this young guy, convert to Islam, and he wanted to use it. He was into all kinds of funny frequency modulations and whatever, without going into too many details. So he said he really needed it. He had some use for it, he could do something. So I passed it to him. And he didn't give it back. And I kept on saying, and he wasn't answering. And basically, I took it that he stole it from me. And so I complained to his Amir, and the Amir of the Jama'ah, of the gang or the group. Well, gang is not a nice word. Let's say the Jama'ah, the community. Because this is their society, community. They will handle it. I'm a guest. I'm an honored guest in their country, in their region. And I've had something, as far as I'm concerned, stolen from me. So they said, okay, it's not theft. I'm sure the brothers had some knowledge to go, no, this is not theft. It's not considered theft, because in Islam, and they mentioned the shurut or the conditions of theft. They go, however, he's taken something, he withheld it from you without right, leave it with us. Within 2 days, this guy who had taken this thing turned up to my door. His face was smashed like a pumpkin, a black eye, bust nose, fat lip. God knows how many teeth he had left. I gave him salam. He could barely lift his hand. I felt very bad. But this is how they do things. And basically, he handed his thing. He couldn't speak because his mouth was so, the jaw was maybe broken. He handed me the item, and then he went back. So I understand. We all know that, you've got these enforcers, these mafia guys who deal with certain things. And not that I'm saying that wasn't excess. It was excess. But the point is, in this particular case, because this guy, you'll see in tweets, he said, he's accused me of haram policing. Brother, Dr. Malik, we don't care about the haram that you do. That's between you and Allah. I'm not interested. We weren't chasing you before or on your backside before. But the reason it's come to something that we need to talk about is because you've entered in the realm of calling to Allah. And we take one step forward and 2 steps back when you justify and you promote such evil while we're trying to call to the good. Had you been a social media influencer, or these brothers and sisters who we've shown being just influencers talking about cars and food joints and holidaying in different places, we wouldn't care. Even if they did it as Muslims, even if they show themselves drinking and in clubbing, it would none of our business. But you mix it with the religion, not just any expression of the religion, but the orthodox, no pun intended, expression of the religion, the true call to Kitab and Sunnah. These people have the word Salafi in their monikers, in their titles. So of course, it's something now we feel we need to distance ourselves, and the brothers and sisters have to say something. You can't just stand by and again, I don't know what the relationship is, how you have this guy managing you. I'm talking to the sisters now. How is it this guy's managing you when he's clearly a fasik? Again, I don't care about his haram halal. That's between him and Allah. But you've invited him, sisters and brother. You've invited him into the space of dawah and have him represent you. How does that make sense? Is it because there's a monetary aspect and he's got some game and he knows how to manage, and and there's all kinds of revenue streams and algorithm manipulation, and so it helps to have someone who knows that? Maybe, I don't know, but there has to be some grown-ups entering the space. I mean, just look. I'll just show some tweets where I said, regardless, we don't oppose falsehood with falsehood. There's no way a believer can justify slut-shaming any woman by sharing scantily clad images of her or directing others towards such illicit content. This is blatantly anti-Islamic behavior from you, brother. I'm talking to Dr. Malik. And you carry the sin of all those whose desires you've aroused, or the haram you've in any case invited others to gaze upon. I'm being polite but stern at the same time. I'd have replied to you directly when you posted these images, but I didn't want to share any share of your sin or further increasing your own burden on the day of resurrection. And given that Allah enjoins justice and good and forbids evil and obscenity and so on and so forth, just does he and evil, all kinds of evil, just does he admonish you that you may remember. And then he says, shut the F up. When they talk about Muslim sisters, quiet. But when you come here wagging your fingers, protecting the dirty kuffar, go do that moral high ground, SHIT, somewhere else. Of course, we do talk about the sisters. We do protect them, but not in this way, not in the way of slut-shaming. And this is the kind of response he gives throughout. So it's not as if we weren't trying to educate him. It's not as if we weren't trying to, teach him or appeal to his Islam, his better sense. If this went on for a while.
I wanted to, Rahman.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, subhanAllah, many people have been contacting us, after we've been doing this now for what, 5-6 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
And even some people in the comments, they're making comments like, or they've come and approached me and said things like, oh, why are you getting involved in this fitna? Why are you adding to the circus, etc. And the reason is because these people are sharing platforms with major people who are seen to be the leaders in the dawah. Like Hijab, like others, some of the Hyde Park channels, etc. They're platforming these type of people, and they're not correcting them. The other thing is that attempts have been made to advise these people privately. Like you're showing here, you've dealt with it in certain tweets when you're actually dealing with them with things they're posting, and you're just not listening. And when you got people like the way Hijab was acting, what do you expect from the younger generation? They're going to take it a step further.
It's good you mentioned the younger generation and the hijab, because look, this is exactly the concern we had. You had Hijab, who you could say is an elder figure. He's in his late 30s. Libyano, young guy, so we cut some slack that he's only in his 20s, as is the other brothers and the sisters, they only just left their teens. So we have, a lot of wide berth for them and love for them and want them to rectify. But then you have a generation below who's still in their teens. And look, they think now this is
shaking her ass to that black guy.
So already foul words, racist kind of language, and this is his dawah video. I'm not going to
play the rest, but if you're interested,
he's regurgitating the clips basically that were doxed by these guys.
We can't stop here.
We have every.
It's a Syrian problem coming out. I mean, this is.
And he's even got in his video, he's showing where his inspiration came from. This is exactly what we feel. I don't know if you can see the cursor here, but I'm moving my cursor. So Hijab has taught this behavior, which he's been doing for a few years, to Orthodox Muslim. And then this guy who's a follower of them, this young kid still in his teens, God knows how young.
Orthodox Muslims like what, early 20s, mid
22, 23.
And you've got this other kid in his what?
He must be what, 16, 17? And this is his dawah. He thinks this is dawah now. And this exactly. And there's worse. I mean, I'll show just an image. The guy called himself Fawzi Dawah, and this guy calls it Ninja Dawah. So apparently, if you put dawah in your name, then that means you actually are doing dawah. If you insult my prophet one more time, I'll smash your effing head in my N-word. Smash in my what doesn't make sense. N-word. Remember that I'll break your face. G. and this non-Muslim is saying they always attack women, they always try, sexualizing. This is the result, from the falsehood you teach. This is the result. I want to speak.
The funny thing is, a lot of these people who are so impressed with their followers, I've got millions of followers. Yeah, these are the followers. Yeah. You wouldn't give them the time of day usually. You wouldn't even sit down and have a coffee with them. Like they value this following so much, but this is the reality of it. It's just a bunch of kids.
And to be fair, we want to be just to show that, look, the Christians, this particular cohort, they're not the nicest of people by any stretch of the imagination. Even without the attacks and the blaspheming or the provocations from their side, even though they will say it all started with hijab a few years ago, and then these guys have picked it on because this is what's required for engagement. Still, they are not good faith actors either. I've made this clear many times. But for the fact that I want to stick by, be consistent and not talk about them, not platform them constantly. I would show a lot of contradictions. Maybe I'll do that separately on my own, standalone video, so as not to give too much credit. But from a point of view of fairness, there are also a level of dishonesty, and it's almost like a bait is set for the brothers and sisters, and then they don't know how to react, unfortunately. So I'll give one example, or I'll talk about where this term ISIS Huri came from, and what led to it. So first let's hear from Dr. Malik again.
May piss and feces be upon the Coptic martyrs. Now put 21 in the chat again. Signed off by Dr. Malik. 21 in the chat right now. 21 in the chat. 21 in the chat. 21 in the chat. May urination and period blood be on the 21 Copts that are just as Coptic as the Shias. Those people are going to the bottom pits of hell.
This is like the equivalent of to me, it's like, somebody saying the N-word, but I got the pass because I'm Egyptian, man. Like, I'm Egyptian, so I could talk about the 21 cops. Girl, I don't give a damn about no cops. They talk about being religiously persecuted, and literally nothing happens to them.
Okay, some background. So 21 Copts refers to DAWAH. ISIS murdered 20, I believe it was 20 Christians, and then one Libyan, or it happened in the deserts of Libya. DAWAH, ISIS murdered them, Coptic Christians. And of course, that's terrorism. No one condones it. And you see now it's become a kind of meme that whenever a Christian or one of these born-agains or evangelists says something that this Muslim group doesn't like, they insult them by saying 20 Copts. And I agree with the sister. Many of these Copts are the ones in the debate scene anyway. They have this kind of venom within them. You have this Ibrahim Raymond, etc. And she was provoked, but this speaks to a problem actually with women in the DAWAH, frankly speaking. She was provoked. So since then, it's this is where it starts. So if someone wants to understand the provocation, let's play it. And she explains it here.
Waalaikumsalam.
So I was trying to get in contact. There's a video floating around about 21 cops. Have you seen it?
Yeah. Well, I didn't see a video, but I don't know what you're talking about specifically. What's the question?
So what's the context behind that? That's what I wanted to know.
Behind what? Me saying for the people to say 21 cops yesterday?
Yeah, so there's a video where you were laughing at the fact that there's 21 cops that...
yeah, because a filthy guy by the name of Destroyer came up and said filthy things. Maybe go watch the YouTube live and you'll see it for yourself. Don't know why you're up here defending cross-chins.
So it was actually a Rafidi, a Christian, a Shia, came and did this to her live. Check this out.
Hello?
Can I suckle from your to become mahram? Like the...
Hey, everybody. 21 cops in the chat, man. 21 cops in the chat, man. 21 cops in the chat. I want a full minute of 21 cops in the chat.
So she believed he was an Egyptian. But he seems to be a Shia who lives in Egypt. She believes he's a Coptic Christian, but he seems to be a Shia. So immediately in her response to this, to being insulted, this is how she responded. So this is what happens when you're in this situation, and it's a sister, of course. You know, no one wants to be faced with some kind of vulgarity that way. And even a guy might overreact, even a brother might overreact, but a sister, it's even worse because, you know, he's talking in a filthy manner or in a sexual manner, and you're a woman, you've covered it and you're trying to cover yourself. So, you know, you're going to react, you're going to chimp out, right, and say something which you might regret. I hope she has regretted it, because we're not suggesting that murdering 21 people, especially at the hands of DAWAH, she's Khawarij, was a good thing. But this is what happens, unfortunately, when you set yourself up, perhaps in certain situations. So that's the background, and that's why since then it's been a running theme. So look, I'm happy to make an excuse for initially saying, okay, at the moment you lost control, you were offended, and so you reacted. But then, khalas, there's no need now to go and rub it in, and every time you make a mockery of Christians and say, yeah, 21 cops. Imagine how that affects their families, those who were murdered like this. Where did this insult, by the way, this insult that this Rafidi leveled at her, this is the same insult that Muhammad the Jab did against some brothers. He said, can I suck your mother's whatever memories? He said, or your wives or sisters. He said it to one brother a few years ago. And so again, one of the sunnahs he started off, which is in mockery of a hadith, he did it. And that's why these people are doing it. SubhanAllah. I want to move this along on the issue of blasphemy, more specifically linked to what we were saying about how when brothers and sisters put themselves into this situation and then they feel that they have to react a certain way. This is from a Christian, he's no friend of mine, in fact, himself, and he's one of this cohort who hangs around with the same group of Christians we all know. And in fact, he's mocked me himself, or myself, I should say. But still, I think a lot of what he says here does make sense. So check this out.
We began. Have you ever blasphemed the Prophet Muhammad?
Okay, so we already have a problem here. She's bringing people up who clearly don't respect Islam or clearly are not Muslim as well. And she's demanding some sort of respect already, especially when Muslims ask you that weird question, have you ever blasphemed Muhammad? The problem with this question, it has so much foolishness baked into it.
I don't know, you consider it blaspheming. Can I address the topic?
Yeah. After you answer my question, you don't know what I consider blaspheming. Well, obviously, blasphemy is going to be that which you insult the Prophet Muhammad, you insult Allah, you call him names. What did you accuse him of? What did he do that you were accusing him of?
Well, it's not an accusation if he did it right.
Have I ever blasphemed the Prophet? If I can't tell the truth about how I feel about Muhammad without you getting mad, then don't talk to me. All right, so here's the problem with this. Like, this is so weird. Like, your title is women are treated good in Islam, but then she wants people to come up if they disagree. Well, obviously, if I disagree, I'm going to come up with a lack of respect for what your religion teaches about women. But then you're going to get mad and say that I'm blaspheming if I disrespect Muhammad for the way that he taught you to be able to treat women. Now, if I say I don't respect him, and if I say he's a for that, that's the conversation that you're baiting. You want people to say that, and then you kick them and say you're blaspheming.
I think he's got some points there.
Well, there's a way to do it. Like, I think both sides are, and there's a middle, right? There's a way to go and speak about these issues when the Christians come, they want to talk about the Prophet without saying crazy stuff, right? There's a way to have those discussions. They happen all the time. I'm sure you have had discussions with Christians and they talk about certain things the Prophet did that they don't like, and it doesn't have to go crazy, right? It doesn't have to be us flinging insults. So I think that's how it should be done. There's a way to do it.
Yeah, I think one thing you can see with all these clips is just lacking the spirit of DAWAH. What DAWAH is about. We're really trying to call people to come to Islam. We're trying to present Islam, and where the DAWAH is not being done. And this is not how you would call people to Islam, with these lack of manners, lack of adab. Just the aggressive look. Even though you got niqab, you just look so aggressive. Like,
Yeah, I'll say something about that shortly. Yeah, I mean, just to lay a foundation, of course, our religions or Islam versus all the religion of Kufr is mutually exclusive, right? In that what we consider blasphemy to them, they consider belief, truth. And what when we consider truth, they will see as blasphemous. But of course, we're going to say we're on the truth because we are on the truth because the Prophet ﷺ came with the final truth that was the truth of all the messengers past. Like we have the Hadith Qudsi, كذبني ابن آدم ولم يكن له ذلك, that the son of Adam denied me, lied against me. They had no right to do so. وشتمني ولم يكن له ذلك, and he abused me. They had no right to do so. And Allah goes on to say in this Hadith Qudsi, as for his lying against me, is to say that I did not create him, even though I created him the first time, while my first creation of him was no easier than recreating him. And as for his abusing me, it is saying that Allah has taken a son. And then Allah in this Hadith Qudsi reads Surah Ikhlas in the first person, which is, really, really beautiful. It says, وَأَنَا الْأَحَدُ السَّمَدُ لَمْ أُلِدْ وَلَمْ أُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لِي كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And I am the one who is self-sufficient master, the one who was not begotten, did not beget, nor was he begotten, and there's none like unto me. So these are abusive beliefs that the Christian holds. But with that, we still can marry amongst them, eat, and the people of the book by extension, have them as neighbors, eat their food, and so on and so forth. So you already have a level of mutual exclusivity in terms of beliefs and mutual blaspheming. Then after that, it's a case of, as John was saying, okay, and the brothers before him said, okay, but then there has to be some decency in how you approach a topic. You should know that there are some bounds that are just going to cause offense. So why would you go there? And if that person is going to be abusive in that regard, what's commanded of us? To disengage. Like in Surah Nisa, it says, when the verses of Allah are ridiculed or denied, then you do not sit with them until they enter into another conversation, or they change the subject, essentially. Otherwise, you're like them. If you stay with them while they engage in this abusive conversation, then you become like them. Or another ayah where it says that when you see those who engage in offensive discourse concerning our verses, then turn away from them until they enter into another discussion. So these are the protocol, the Quranic principles, that if they're going to be abusive, aslan, you should be engaging with them. And if you are going to engage with them, then of course it has to be with hikmah and wisdom. You don't play that filthy game. Yes, brother, you were going to say.
I was gonna say, I think one of the things I noticed with these people, I can't imagine them in conversation in real life. And I can't imagine them interacting with a real human being, a real Christian, and just talking to them about theology. And this is very weird to me, because as a da'i, obviously, I think that the interactions that you're going to have with the Christians or when you do da'wah online is going to be different than in real life. But I feel like these people don't leave their house and have interactions with human beings. So they just don't understand how to deal with other individuals like respectfully. I don't know, it's very weird. It's like they've never interacted with anyone about anything. It's not even just religion. It feels like they would just like insult people for just random things, and they're extremely emotional. And to be fair, I'm not mentioning any specific person, but the women are extremely masculine. I think we're going to talk about this, but this is a big problem. Wallahi, some of these women, they're more masculine than quote unquote men I see and I interact with in certain places in public. Come on. At this point, you might just put on the gloves and show us something. Show us a spar session. Or like, the testosterone, it's crazy. What are they taking? What are they taking? HGH or something? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and I'm gonna play a clip from someone who it'll be surprising, but we'll give props where they're due. And I think the brother made a very valid observation here. The brother being none other than Daniel Hakikachu.
I don't think that's appropriate. Like, I'm not gonna say it's haram. I'm not gonna say that this is prohibited in Islam. I'm not gonna make any kind of ruling like that. I'm not a mufti. I'm not like in a position to make a statement like that. But does it like go against femininity? Yeah, it goes against femininity. It becomes an imitation of men, and that's not like, that's something that is already happening at such a wide scale around the world and within Muslim societies, of women imitating men in seeking power, seeking education, seeking positions of leadership. Like that, all of that is imitation of men. And we know that Allah has cursed the woman who imitates a man and a man who imitates women. Like this, it's something that brings Allah's curse. And the imitation, like when women are trying to be more and more like men in these things, like being aggressive and debating, being aggressive and like arguing online and doing that, that's a manly thing. Like that's a masculine thing. Women shouldn't be imitating that. Muslim women shouldn't be imitating that. It becomes a matter of imitation that could be problematic. It could be, something disliked, objectionable in Islam. So I think, isn't that like obvious? Like, isn't that something like I didn't understand the controversy on that.
Sadaqa wa huwa kadhub. He spoke the truth even though he's a liar. Specifically on the issue of this debating, and I think some of the sisters are aware of that. I did see one of them say that maybe they're going to tone down on the debate thing, but essentially all this does is it promotes the opponent, and we know that when these sides debate, like the 3 versus 3 or the many versus 1 or whatever, you'll see that both sides clip farm for their own audience. No one was convinced of the other side's argument. Otherwise, why would they think that they won and they cooked the other person and they what's the other words they use? Baked them, they cooked them, owned them, destroyed them. All of this kind of language. First of all, if you actually did cook and destroy and bake someone, you don't need to spell it out because the audience will appreciate. Oh, you did a good job. And the Christians, we discussed this before, didn't we, John? The Christians themselves will say, or the opponents will say, "Yep, you did a good job. That was good." And they will, the neutrals, if you like, or the third parties will say that our side didn't do a good job then, and they will admit it.
I mean, this happened actually. I mean, just last week or the week before, Libyano and the sister debated a couple of Christians, the old guys, and they did really well actually. They did it with good manners. And then the next day it was all like, "Oh, we cooked you, we baked you," I thought, oh, mashallah, it seems like they've changed their kind of tone. But the very next day, it was just like, you've done so well. The Christians were even supporting you, saying how bad the Christians have done, how good the Muslims did. But then you went and ruined it. It's like they allow these whispers from Shaitan to come and ruin the dawah. They're forgetting the end goal is always dawah.
I want to say to all these...
another thing, look, a lot of, as I mentioned before, in the ideal world, if we're living in an Islamic system, the da'is are the students of knowledge, the scholars, but it's just because, we're living in the West, we're living in non-Muslim lands, that the everyday Muslim has had to equip themselves to give dawah, but they're not equipping themselves. Like, do you remember back in the day? Like, I mean, I've only been Muslim 17 years. I'm talking about back in the day. But I'm sure you'll know way before me as well that, every 6 months or something, the local masjid would give like a dawah course, a bit of a dawah training, just to get the average Muslim, the everyday Muslim, some tools to be able to give dawah in a good way, to reach out to their neighbors, their colleagues. But it seems to be, I don't think any of these guys have ever done anything even basic like that, about basic Muslim manners.
Yeah, there's something about common sense as well that, look, and we always say, and I've said to these guys for 5-6 years, maybe even longer now, that it's never about the person in front of you. It's about all of because they're just a tool, they're just a plank, they're a vehicle for you, because anything in the public domain, you're not speaking to that one person, you're speaking to everyone for posterity, as long as the internet is around, right? So if you're debating a Christian, don't imagine that, and you must know, that's not the only person who's your audience. It's his wife or her husband, their children, their congregation, their neighbors, and all of the millions of people who could be watching. So why would you say, "I've cooked you, we baked you," when if the argument was strong and your hujjah, your proof, or your hujjah, your evidence were compelling, the people will think, that's a good point that sister, that brother made. But when you say, I cooked you, what's the word? Baked, you cooked, you destroyed. Immediately, what happens? Ego takes over. And then your opponent thinks, oh, is that how you're going to speak to me? Also, it's two-faced. It's so two-faced because when you, and this goes to the issue of doxing and speaking about calling these guys' wives whores and prostitutes and all that kind of stuff. When you're willing to debate with them, their wives aren't whores. When you're willing to engage with them and sit with them and invite them onto your stream, their wives aren't whores and they're not sluts. But as soon as the camera's off and then you bring your own friends on, suddenly they're all, I cooked you, I baked you, you're a slut and whore, prostitute. This is two-faced then. You should have the same energy. Again, if you think they are so evil that these women are prostitutes, why are you encouraging our sisters to debate them and hug them and say, oh, we gave up, it was so nice meeting you, I'm so glad let's keep in touch? Is how you speak to a whore? If that's what you actually believe. And as we said, we don't want to go back to that. This is from their past anyway, from 10 years ago. And just on that point, I want to bring up again, this, not someone I particularly like. I think his takes on geopolitics are very much skewed and ikhwanified. But, he spoke, I believe, the truth in this small segment.
This hate. You don't need this vile behavior. You typically respond to that with another YouTube video saying, oh, this person's like this and this person's finished. That seems to be our generation. Not to go to them and tell them, yo, let me smash you in a debate. Yo, let me annihilate you. We're not here for the power, my boy. We are here to use what Allah gave us.
Subhanallah, that's so true, that it's not about us. If we are victorious in a debate, in interaction, it's not due to anything from us. It's due to the proofs that Allah gave us. I want to bring one more clip on about debate from another brother, and then we'll give the floor. We'll open the floor up to a sister, and then go back to some more clips. So this one is from brother Shahid Bolson.
Brother used ayat of the Quran in a debate, which are literally telling Muslims why debates like this are futile. If he had read, understood, and applied those ayat, he would not have participated in this debate to begin with. Look, we are strongly warned in Islam against wasting our time, against engaging in futile activities. And I really don't understand why Muslims seem to have just gone debate crazy over the last few years. I mean, back in the day, if you have a fundamental disagreement with someone about any particular topic, the immediate impulse was not, hey, I have an idea, we fundamentally disagree. Let's hyper-focus on that disagreement and argue about it, and maybe we can draw a crowd, and then that crowd will be divided just like us on that issue. What's the point of that? Back in the day, if you have a fundamental disagreement with someone about a particular topic, that was a conversation ender, not a conversation starter on that topic. It just means this is something we can't talk about because we fundamentally disagree. Because you're allowed to think whatever you want to think, and I'm allowed to think whatever I want to think. And neither of us is negatively affected by each other's opinion. It's fine to disagree. And if the rationale here is that, the Muslims are being negatively impacted by the views being propagated by atheists and so on. Look, I personally have never heard of any of these people until a Muslim debated them. You are literally increasing their exposure and the exposure of Muslims to their views. That's not helping. If you are sincerely and genuinely concerned about helping Muslims strengthen their iman, then try to learn, understand, and apply your deen and teach them. When Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh debated with the Khawarij, it wasn't because the Khawarij were negatively impacting the iman of the Muslims and he was trying to strengthen the iman of the other Muslims. He was sincerely trying to correct those people, and many of them were corrected. That wasn't a futile pursuit. They had serious flaws in their understanding of Islam, and Ibn Abbas explained to them what those flaws were. But if you're staging a debate and treating it basically like a boxing match where you're just trying to score points, well, that's not educational. That's not correctional. That's just entertainment. And I mean, how does it even make sense to essentially what you're doing is saying, hey, everyone, listen to this guy. He's saying terrible and stupid things. Why would you want to draw my attention to that? The fewer people who hear those people, the better. You should be trying to blockade the Muslims from those people, not invite them in. Those people are predominantly just talking to each other. Why do you think you almost never see a scholar engaging in these types of debates? Only preachers and da'is and YouTube personalities, because scholars know and understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said about these types of debates. It is the same for them whether you talk to them about Islam or not. But it's not the same for you. You're wasting your time, and you are inflicting the Muslims with those people's rancorous views, which otherwise they would not be exposed to. I'm telling you, we don't need to answer these people. They're not in a position to interrogate our beliefs. And again, if their views have actually caused any Muslims to have doubts or questions about Islam in their minds, then what you should do is talk to them. Talk to those Muslims about their concerns, about their doubts, about their questions, and make sure that you have sufficient knowledge to help them.
SubhanAllah. That's very, very well said. And, you know, the fact that when you have these debates and these brothers and sisters face off against each other, and the non-Muslim is quoting to you Mujahid from the Salaf and Tabari ibn Kathir, khalas, there's nothing to discuss, because you know that the point that you need to convey, that Allah is one, la sharika lah, there's nothing to worship besides him. If you can't, once you've presented the case for that and he's rejected it, why do you need to talk about the Prophet's marriage or the hudud? What is the point? You know, because he's already well beyond that. He's already decided he's not even concerned with your articles of Iman. Now he wants to get into, try to find where he can slip you up on what you claim is an authentic hadith or a weak hadith and so on and so forth. So as the brother said there, we need to value our time. And there's a reason that people of knowledge don't do this. I know if we played the clip, did we play the clip of Yamani before? I'll play it before we bring on a guest. This speaks exactly or shows exactly what was mentioned there about not giving in to people who want to waste our time. Bad faith actors.
Islamophobe. Imam Muslim is an Islamophobe. Qurtubi is an Islamophobe. They're all Islamophobic. I'm just quoting your sources, dude.
Sure. I'm not interested.
And you can't defend it.
I'm not here to defend anything with you.
Then what are you here for?
Huh?
What are you here for?
To speak to those who are sincere.
How do you determine someone's sincere?
Allah and His Messenger told us. Don't worry about it.
So you're a prophet, so you get revelation from Allah and His Messenger?
I said Allah and His Messenger told us.
If
you cannot comprehend what I'm saying, what are you doing here?
I'm asking how.
You clearly cannot comprehend. Every. Right now, you are looking like a beggar.
Oh, am I?
Yes.
Because
I'm not here to talk to you.
He said I'm looking like a beggar, guy. Okay. So if I'm the one looking like a beggar,
you came to me and you're
like
looking
a coward. Look, I flew all the way to the UK to get the best of you guys.
Alhamdulillah.
You're supposed to be one of the best. I came to talk to the best of you because you know what they tell me on TikTok? Look, on TikTok they tell me, hey, why don't you go talk to the da'is? Hey, why don't you go talk to the smart Muslims, the intellectual Muslims, the ones with channels? When I come to them, what happens?
We have a criteria.
We don't want to talk to you.
Alhamdulillah, we have a methodology. We have a criteria. I follow the methodology and the criteria of Islam. I don't follow what you want me to follow.
Okay, and what does Islam tell you how to talk to the people of the book?
There is a difference.
No.
There is a difference. No.
I don't need it. He said that he
I don't need it. This is a beggar who either insults Allah and His Messenger, lies about Islam, sits with those who desecrate the Quran, and he thinks he's going to get my attention.
Talk to them in good faith. But now he's not following Islam. You're supposed to talk to me in good faith, dude.
No.
That's Islam. No, he's not.
You are not going to teach me my religion.
Then don't act like you don't know it.
I'm not acting like I don't know it. I know it better than you.
If you know it better than me, then let's have a discussion, bro.
I don't want a discussion with you.
That's what your Quran tells you to do.
No, it doesn't tell me I have to. Does it tell me I have to have a discussion with you?
It says in chapter 29, verse 46, and dispute with the people of the book in good faith.
Well, yeah, that's if I engage. I'm not engaging.
But you are engaging.
Actually, you're right. So now I'm going to stop talking.
You have a good day. Hey guys, this is Islam, ladies and gentlemen. This is Islam. Top
والحمد لله رب العالمين that the Muslims والحمد لله رب العالمين that the Muslims have غيرة for Allah and His Messenger. Because we have غيرة for Allah and His Messenger and for our sisters, we refuse to speak to those who are ignorant, arrogant, who are insincere. This is the methodology of the Muslims. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We do not capitulate to what they want. We stand firm in what Allah and His Messenger has given us as guidance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. If you are sincere and want to know about Islam, then we can speak. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
So much dignity there, mashallah, in the brothers.
Yeah, I thought that was excellent. I think that's one of the best responses I've seen of how to deal with a Christian missionary who's trying to get famous. And he was so confident, and he understood what he was there for, and wasn't going to get dragged into a messy debate with God Logic, who's just at the end of the day, he's just going to cut up the video and make it work for him, no matter what you say, whether you win or not.
And it's not as if the brothers did this in spite of or because he's ignorant. On the contrary, it's in spite of his being capable, in spite of his having knowledge. He knows his game. He knows how to do dawah. And because of his knowledge, he realized this is not for me. This is not for my audience. This is for you. I don't need to give you what you want. And mashallah, he had that dignity about him.
And that's the difference when you're doing something for the sake of Allah, right?
Yeah.
You're doing it to show your knowledge and show off in Hyde Park and get all these likes. But the fact is, he was trying to please Allah. Allah knows best, but he did the right thing, and it was good. I think it was a breath of fresh air when he did that.
Indeed, it was. Indeed, it was.
It takes more courage, akhi, to do something like that.
Yes.
Than do what people like hijab do, right? Because it is very easy, by the way, to be in this mindset of trying to be a wolf, right? And just score as many points as you can and humiliate these people. Because as example, like this person who's coming up to him, he's mentioning Qurtubi. You don't even know Arabic. How are you going to discuss Qurtubi with me or these other individuals? Obviously, someone is going to be like, oh, I could destroy him on this. I can annihilate him on this. I already know what he's going to say. But he knows that there is nothing that's going to come from it except that the Christian is going to get more clout and views and etc. And maybe he will as well, but it is not a positive interaction generally how Islam sees it. And akhi, like you see how he acted as well. He stopped himself, and you could see he maybe if otherwise if Islam didn't tell him to do this, he would have interacted with that person and discussed. But because he's holding steadfast on his beliefs. When it comes to what the scholars say on how to deal with certain interactions like these, he is actually following the right methodology and he's stopping himself.
Indeed, we've had the sister waiting in the wings for a while. What say you, sister?
Assalamu alaikum. I do apologize. I do have a sore throat, so if you don't understand me, please do let me know. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I think the last clip was really powerful. It was a really good pushback to some of the behaviour we're seeing online. It is wisdom to know when to move forward and when to take a step back. It is wisdom to know when to speak and when not to speak. And it's for us as Muslims to have the knowledge, the wisdom, the awareness, the self-awareness to know when and when not to do certain things. Not every door is a door of opportunity, and it is upon us to know when and when not that is. We shouldn't just recklessly move forward because we can. We are not destructive like that. Because like some of you were mentioning earlier, we have been given divine wisdom, like divine information. So if we have took the time to learn and know enough we should know when and when not to engage in these things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jazakallah khair. Yes, go ahead with something else, sister.
Yeah. You want me to speak on some of the things I've seen, or are you going to show us a new clip?
No.
There's just one thing, guys. If you just look at this comment, we got a Mancunian.
A Mancunian.
It's not a bad thing, is it?
It's got North Yorkshire. Well, they say the further north you go, I'm going to post the link. And I see there's a Muslim introspection. I'll bring you on next. I'm going to post the link. Yeah, they say the further north you go, the friendlier people are. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
I agree.
Maybe there's more common sense as well in the north. God knows. So let's pin this comment. Yeah, sister, do you have anything to say about any of the clips or how we started off in general before we bring the next clip?
Just for the sake of self-respect, I won't get into too much of the detail because some of the clips I have never seen before, some of the messages I've never read before. They are quite disgusting. And you know what's really disappointing about it is the fact that we are people who are calling ourselves Muslim. And you know, I really want to sort of hold on to the hope that everybody is here with good intention. But that's only the beginning. We have to recognize the magnitude of the responsibility we hold when we call ourselves Muslims, when we are visibly identifiable as a Muslim. We have to move, walk, talk like a Muslim. You know, it's I don't know, it shocks me. It shocks me. Like, would these brothers give dawah to their mothers, their sisters, their daughters, if they were Muslim, in the manner that they have spoke to some of these women? And also, you know, I had a discussion recently with someone. It seems like their dawah is very conditional. Like, I will give you dawah in a respectful manner as long as you are automatically at the starting point receptive to what I have to say. They're not having the empathy and the mercy that the Prophet ﷺ had when he gave dawah. You know, it's really annoying. It's really annoying. Like in the Quran, in Surah, I think it's 18, it said, Allah sort of speaks to the Prophet ﷺ in terms of, I can't remember. Let me just quickly check so that I'm accurate. I don't want to get it wrong. So yeah, it says, then perhaps you would kill yourself through grief over them, O Muhammad, if they do not believe in the message and out of sorrow. So like Allah is speaking to the Prophet because it's clear that the Prophet is feeling some sort of grief and sorrow for the fact that they're not receiving or they're not taking, you know, the message that he's coming with. And that shows rahmah, that shows empathy. And I just feel like that is so lacking when it comes to the youth. It is absolutely entertainment, and it's not a game. These are real people, and like mothers, daughters, brothers, fathers, they're real people. We want them to receive the message. That is the goal, not showing off or getting into arguments. It is, yeah.
No, 100%, 100%. Jazakallah khair, sister. That was a very valuable contribution, as always. Barakallahu feek.
Okay, I wanted to point out something. You know, it's funny because some of these people, they're at differing ages. Some of them are in their 30s, some of them are in their 20s, some of them are in their teens. But you find actually they're all the same individual. I don't know if you guys see this. Like, they talk the same, they act the same. It's like they're like in this teen mindset which I don't like the word teenager, but you know, that's what people use. And they have never like left that behind and like went to something, you know, it's like they're still in high school, or like they're still in like early college. Like they've never went out in the world and kind of learn how to deal with people in a manner outside of this. I think especially with the people who have been in the da'wah scene for a long time, is because this is their life. This is how they make money. This is how this is what they know. Their interactions with people are on this level, right? They go to speaker's corner, and they, you know, maybe now they don't as much, but in the past they did that for such a long time that this is ingrained in them to act with people like this, you know. And they don't care about consequences. They don't care about anything other than that. They have a specific way of dealing with people and acting, and they will never change their ways. And the youth, they're like these people that, you know, they're fans of like people like Muhammad Jab. They're just like in their footsteps, like they're just following in their footsteps, and they're gonna maybe have the same trajectory that they did, right? It's like they're looking at their future. Allah understand. So I think these people never were really heavily invested in Islam, and I really believe this. I don't think they're sold, right, in terms of practice. I don't think they have sat down with themselves and said, you know, I'm going to read the hadith and I'm going to read the Quran and I'm going to follow it regardless, and I will capitulate to Islam fully. I don't care about individuals or names or, you know, clout or anything like that.
Yeah.
Could I just add something to that? Is that okay?
Of course.
Yeah, there's a book called The Glorification of Knowledge, and it's talking about like 20 principles for a student of knowledge. And one part that's covered is the heart being a vessel that is fit to retain knowledge. And I think, to sort of complement what the brother was just saying there, likewise, our heart has to be a place of a holistic Muslim. You know, it has to have knowledge, it has to have good character, it has to have sincerity, it needs to be clear and clean from impure things. And I think one thing that's really visible in all this sort of degenerate behavior is that it's normal to them. And if it's normal to them, what does that mean for their environment? What does that mean for the things that they're listening to? I'm not putting out any accusations, but it's just things that we need to think about. You know, what does that say about the conversations they're having with other people, the people they're mixing with? You know, we are and we will become, you know, what we are surrounded by if we are not careful. You know, this is Islam teaches us to make sure our environments are fit for purpose for a good Muslim. So it's just, I just thought that was relevant to what the brother was saying.
Indeed, the Prophet said, how does it call? ليس المؤمن بالطعان ولا اللعان ولا فاحش ولا بذيء. The believer is not the one who frequently insults others, nor one who frequently curses, nor the one who's obscene or foul-mouthed. And another famous hadith where he said, Al-Hayā min al-Iman wal-Iman fil Jannah, that modesty is part of faith, part of Iman, and Iman is in Jannah, meaning the people of Iman, they go to paradise. And then he said the opposite, and obscenity is a part of harshness, and harshness is in the fire. I mean, the people who are harsh and obscene, they will be in the hellfire. So may Allah protect us from that. We also have now Muslim Introspective, and Bro Yusuf has joined us. Which wants to go first? Maybe you can put your cameras on as well, bro, Yusuf and John, now that we got two of the guys there. Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you guys doing?
Yeah, good. You've been able to watch? I know you've had prior commitments elsewhere.
Yeah, I had a little bit going on, so I couldn't watch the clips, although I think I'm somewhat up to date, and you guys were speaking on just having good adab when conveying Islam and that kind of thing. I think there's a little bit of a disconnect with the youth. I think a lot of these guys, they're in the trenches, and they're engaging with people like this on the daily, so it can make you a little bit tough and rough around the edges, and that kind of has a bad, it can have a negative impact on how you convey Islam. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, holding on to the Sunnah is like, and by Islam by extension, like holding on to hot coals, as the Prophet Sallallahu
Someone mentioned an important point. Actually, I think it was in the comments. He said that not everyone's meant for da'wah, and I can't agree with this more. You know, subhanallah, when I interact with the youth, and by the way, I mentioned that I'm talked about teens and I talk negatively about them. I've met people who are 14, 15, 16. Wallahi, akhi, they are more knowledgeable, and you will be shocked by these individuals that you meet. That they are so like impressive, honestly. So that's not to attack people who are younger, but obviously the general population of young people, they have a lot of problems. But I think, akhi, when I meet people in the, you know, studying, students of knowledge, etc., some people, they have a lot of knowledge, but their personality, I'm not even talking about the knowledge aspect. Of course, the knowledge aspect is not present amongst many of these people. But some people, their personality is so abrasive and it is so thorny that they really shouldn't be in da'wah. So it's like not having knowledge and having a very bad personality that doesn't work for this space. These are two big issues that compound above each other, and they become a big thing. Yani, I think Muhammad Hijab is the perfect example of this. He lacks in knowledge, and his personality is extremely it's disgusting, frankly. So that's a big problem. And the brother also mentioned another point, which is that when you interact with people, right, in a certain way, a very aggressive way, and sometimes you have to, right, in certain places, but they've been doing this for such a long time that this affects their personality. Even if it was better in the past, it gets worse and worse and worse and becomes the normal. So imagine you've been doing something for 10 years. You're a completely different individual. And how are you going to revert back to how you were, let's say, when you were 19 or 20 or 21? You're a completely different individual. This is like you've literally went through your whole 20s, or your whole, as a young man, in this way. So what's the outcome going to be? What's how are you going to be acting with individuals? So and I say this, but someone mentioned in the comments, he said that these people go out in the street and they do interact with people. I know they interact with people, but in what way do they interact with people? Do they interact with people only in stalls and and give pamphlets and give da'wah in this manner? Or are they also interacting with them in debates in an aggressive manner and online as well? Their output, how is it like? Are they going on TikTok spaces and X spaces and saying crazy stuff and insulting this person and insulting that person? And by the way, to be very clear, some people, they will have incredible amount of knowledge, but they have bad khisal when it comes to their manners. They insult people, and this is not just in the Muslim scene. This happens as well in the Muslim scene in the West. This happens also in the Arab world, where you have certain people who are very knowledgeable, but they have no akhlaq, they have no manners. So certain people are not meant to be in certain spaces.
Yeah, I think if I may, I think unfortunately, like with the advent of the internet and everything like that,
Someone backstage.
It's just who rises to the top, right? Like it's who can command the most attention, right? So that's unfortunately that a lot of times that's going to be our representative. A lot of times, but yeah, I just thought I'd put that in there.
What's frustrating about that, though, is
you got someone backstage. AZ, do you want to show your face?
Yeah, he needs to show himself. Yeah, continue, sister.
Yeah, no, what's frustrating about that, though, is if the bigger channels are not doing right in terms of representation, then, like, for example, some of the names that have been mentioned already, they are really doing, the people who oppose us, they're doing their job for them. They really are. They are falling short to the level where they don't even need to try and look for flaws in us. It's visible because it's put out there to grab people's attention, etc., and all the other excuses they give. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We should not be, like, I understand trying to make sure your thumbnails are engaging and your titles are quirky and all this sort of thing, but it cannot be at the to the extent where it compromises our principles and values. And that is where we're going wrong. That is where we're playing into the algorithm, and we shouldn't be playing into anything that is outside that middle way.
There's an interesting idea, Ikhwa and sister. You know, when you look at the channels that are the biggest, I think they're a representation of how the Muslims are. And we see the same idea that the scholars speak about when it comes to countries. كما أنتم يولى عليكم. As you are, as you're stated, your leaders are appointed based on that. So when I want to look at any organization, not just a country, organization, a group of individuals, a thought experiment, or a society, whatever, right? When I look at the leaders and the people who they organize it, to me it's a very good representation of how the people that are under them are and how they act. So when Muhammad Hijab, and when I look at his subscribers, I am not confused or shocked or anything at all. Actually, I think it's perfect. I think it's a perfect encapsulation of how the youth are. This is the reality, unfortunately, and how people generally are and what they react to. They react to things like Muhammad Hijab in a very positive manner. But he's an entertainer. You know, we can say whatever we want to say about Muhammad Hijab. We can attack him, etc., etc. But the youth love it. They can't get enough of it. Right, and that's why even through everything he's done and all of the issues he has fell into, and like literally when he's fell into stuff that I thought there's no way he comes back after this, and he does every single time, and it's because of the youth, and they don't care what he does or what he says or what he doesn't say. But obviously, the biggest problem in the past was that there wasn't enough pushback by the people in the da'wah scene that were positive and they had good things about them. So inshallah, we will change that. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It is the reality at the moment in time.
Inshallah. And thank you, Dean Black, for your super chats and super comments. And we have Brother AZ. You have the mic, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Welcome. Yes, we can. I know you tried to get on before with a different avatar, but there was some technical issues. But we're finally glad to have you. Maybe you want to introduce yourself or you don't. I don't know. Do you want to give yourself a plug?
You invited me today, brother Ustad Ibrahim from the Humanity Forum. Jazakallah khair, actually, I was really enjoying today's stream. I listen every Friday, by the way. I just wanted to say, continue what you're doing. It does make an impact. Unfortunately, it's not as much as we may see on screen, but in reality, it does make an impact. There are many people listening, following, and paying attention. I just want to say two things, and then I can go back to listening, inshallah. The first thing I want to say is that for the generation that precedes the current generation of teenage du'at, that's what they are really, we have failed to pave a way for them. And the reason why I say that is because these children, they're really children, are the products of Western society and the product of our neglect. Their behavior online is a representation of the failure in terms of the adab that we didn't give them and the guidance we failed to give them. Anyone can wear a niqab. Anybody can have a beard and go online and pretend to be a Muslim representative. But it takes a lot more than that to represent Islam. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm not against youth giving da'wah at all, because we know that Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, among the most prolific du'at that he sent to other places, for example, Medina, Mu'adh ibn Jabal, he sent him to Yemen, he sent Mus'ab ibn Umair to Medina. These were young men. Some of them even younger than those who are currently speaking online as du'at. And whenever he sent these people, it's because of meticulous adab, good manners. And he would advise them when he sent Mu'adh. He advised him, you're going to a people who are not like us. They are Christians, Ahlul Kitab. And they have a different way of doing things. So when you approach these people, there's a certain way of speaking to them. There's a certain way of relating to them. When he sent Mus'ab ibn Umair to Medina before the Hijrah, he was a young man. Right? And these young people really worked for Islam. And it was the adab, the akhlaq that made the difference. And so for the youngsters today who want to frontline Islam and they think they're doing a favor to Islam, wallahi, you're failing. But I blame myself, somebody older than you. We didn't do enough to raise you properly. And so you have failed. Now, the second thing is you are the products of Western society. Your behavior, your comportment online, without the niqab and the hijab, wallahi, you are just like any other Adam and Smith. right? In London or New York. No difference. So you have become literally the embodiment of the worst of Western society. And this is a shame. No tarbiyah, no adab whatsoever. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to say is our methodology is not one of reciprocation when it comes to filth. Oftentimes I hear, I have many sons, young sons, and the first thing that happens in conflict is he did it first. He did it first, right? It's not Islam. It's not how we behave. If anyone had the example or you could say the excuse to use that kind of approach, it would have been our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, when she sat down and in her face, her husband was abused. And she reciprocated immediately. It's natural. What did he say to her? He told her, Aisha, mahlan ya Aisha. Relax, calm down. Inna Allah rafiq yuhibbu rifq fi amri kulli. Allah is gentle, and in everything He wants gentleness. وَيُؤْتِ بِالرِّفْقِ مَا لَا يُؤْتِ بِالْعُنْفِ أَوْ أَيْ آخَرَ. Allah grants with gentleness what He will never grant with aggression or anything other than gentleness. This is the methodology of Islam. I don't believe anyone making dua right now or da'wah online has more right to reciprocate abuse than Aisha did on that day. Yet Ar-Rasul told her, this is not the way, ya Aisha, mahlan. And if you want to make a change in this world, it's not by being rough and tough and abusive. It is by having, first of all, control yourself. Ar-Rasul said, who is the strongest? And they said, the one who can wrestle the other person and put him down. I said, no. The one who can control his own emotions when he's angry. This is what strength is. And so what we see online is not a representation of Islam. It's actually the opposite of that, right? Now, I've seen people make comments on this stream saying, make this short. Don't waste your time on this. Don't speak about this. Wallahi, this is part of the problem. This is part of the problem. When we try to correct what is wrong in our community, there's always one or two people who tell us, don't waste your time on it. Don't do it. Don't focus on it. Don't talk, right? That's not what we've been told by Rasulullah. What did he tell us? This ummah is like a ship sailing on an ocean. And unfortunately, there are people who are foolish, who are at the bottom of the deck, and they're drilling holes in the ship. Rasul said, he didn't say to us, ignore these people. He said, no, if you don't stop these foolish people, the entire ship capsizes. All of you will perish. Right now, we're on a ship in the middle of an ocean, and it's raging and storming. And when we try to plug a few holes and hold a few hands, we're being told, don't waste your time. Don't get involved. Don't spread fitna. Wallahi, the fitna is not doing anything. That's the fitna. The Muslims right now in the West maybe don't realize, if you look at historical context, and I look a lot into history. In the 1930s, the Jewish people were in our position. If you look at 1930s Germany and how the Jewish community was behaving, we are the new Jewish community in the West. If that's not evident for you right now, read the history books. Before what happened to them, they were extremely arrogant, extremely entitled, extremely abrasive, extremely callous, until the society they lived in was so sick and fed up with their behavior. We know what happened in Germany, right? Do not think that the Muslims, because you maybe have a British passport, you're born in America, you can behave a certain way online and there were no consequences. No. Think of the next 10 to 15 years. Things are changing, right? So what we're doing here is we're allowing the few, as-sufaha'u minna, as Sayyidina Moses says in the Quran, atuhlikuna bima fa'ala as-sufaha'u minna. Ya Allah, would you destroy us for what the fools amongst us have done? Will you destroy us as a community for what the fools amongst us are doing, Ya Allah? It's a dua we should make every single day. And so I speak with passion because, quite frankly, I'm seeing the Muslim community, after having spent 15 to 20 years online, developing, building, training. You know, the Ira brothers have been doing a lot of great work over the last 15, 20 years, and many other institutes. And they're working behind the scenes quietly to develop. And in 2 to 3 years, that legacy has been destroyed by a few children. By a few children. How is this possible? How is this possible? And then when you try to do some things, Brother Abdurrahman is doing, and wallahi, I don't know how you do it. I've said to you in the groups, I don't know how you do it. How do you do this? How do you have the patience to do this day in, day out? To be insulted because you simply reminded the Muslim that what you're doing is wrong, it's haram. To be insulted, I don't know how you have the patience, right? But in 2 to 3 years, we have seen the entire legacy. Because if you speak in 2026 about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Everybody has something to say. Everybody has something to insult with. Everybody has something to, and it's no longer, it has no effects. It has no effects. For those of you old enough, in the 1980s, Salman Rushdie published a book. Look at the response of the Muslims in the UK, in America, in France, in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in Pakistan. And that book, had it been published in 2026, would not even make a single wave compared to what we're seeing on a daily basis online. It's nothing today. It's nothing today compared to one video that's been published about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we have become so desensitized, so used to this behavior, that when somebody tries to correct it, we tell them, why are you trying to get involved? Why are you trying to stop it? This is the wrong attitude to have. And I'll finish with this. When Allah sends punishments, do not think it's going to be God logic and David Wood. Wallahi, the entire playing field will be destroyed. The entire playing field will be destroyed, because what happens, you're getting involved in something Allah hates. Allah hates this. In the Quran, Allah tells us, لا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله فيسبوا الله عدوا بغير علم. In the Bible, it says, do not sit with those who mock the Lord. In the Bible, it says, do not take the Lord's name in vain. So in both scriptures, the believer is told, do not play with the name of Allah. Do not mess around with the divinity of God. Do not play with religion. And we're seeing on a daily basis, these two people, these two camps, from the Muslims and from the kuffar, are two faces from the same coin. And I use that, literally the same coin. They are making money from this. That's what it comes down to. They are making money from this. And they have a symbiotic relationship. Because in order for one camp to continue making videos, they need the opposing camp to attack them. If you take one, it's like you have maybe a fire burning. If you remove one of the three elements, the fire doesn't continue. So they need one another. They're working together. They are working together. And we've seen in recent days pictures that have emerged behind DebateCon. And you have somebody who, wallahi, I have been angry with people for less than what I've heard online about Rasulullah. Many of us will start speaking to somebody because of something very little. But when Allah and His Messenger are being insulted on a daily basis, we find people who pretend to be Muslims and they pretend to defend Islam have no problem taking pictures and selfies. So the Muslim community right now is failing. That's the reality. It is failing. And the worst of the worst are those who, when we try to correct, they say, why are you trying to help? Why are you trying to get involved? It's not important. You're spreading fitna. Wallahi, you are the fitna mongers. Because if somebody is trying to help, what Abdurrahman is doing, what Brother John Fontaine is doing, what Sister Aisha, all of you are doing, is very difficult. I know it's difficult. I've tried it. I know it's very difficult, right? To be put on screen and to have your name. It's very difficult. So to even make the attempt, fi sabilillah, is already enough of a sacrifice that people are making. So for those who are listening, who have no participation whatsoever, stop discouraging people who are trying to do something positive. Because by Allah, when we get to the point where nobody's doing anything, then the punishment is halal for us. So that's all I have to say. May Allah forgive me, first and foremost. And just continue what you're doing. Wallah, He's making a huge impact. And if nobody else wants to participate in this effort, at least make the effort for yourself. And even the enemies, actually. There are many non-Muslim channels who have repeatedly cited Knowledge North. I've heard with my own ears. Non-Muslim channels, when it gets too much, they'll say, actually, Knowledge North has said this. In other words, what the others are doing is not right, but this channel is telling us the correct form of Islam. So it's making an impact. And may Allah help in age, inshallah. And you're very patient. Wallahi, you're very patient. I'm not as patient as you are, but continue what you're doing. And may Allah bless you in this endeavor. Barakallahu feekum.
You know, you've only been here for a few minutes, but one of the gems you dropped was something else. Were it not for that, we've got so many other people listening. We want to insist that you stay longer and benefit. So, Jazakallah khair, brother. And we really, really you again. I was really
that was good. That was good.
That was really good. Brother Islam Hakim, you've been very patient. Forgive us for keeping you for so long. And we see...
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
God, the mic's yours.
It's not keeping me at all. I was loving listening to the previous speaker. I could have listened to him go on for another half an hour on it. and made excellent points eloquently. What I wanted to sort of say or add really is, Muhammad SAW told us very clearly about the importance of character and the patience and, building common ground with people before you go into differences and all these kind of things, and not insulting. But I wanted to speak a little bit about the sort of underlying psychology, because we studied this stuff quite a lot, and there's a lot of interesting, studies that are out there that sort of give the scientific side of why this advice worked. Not that it should be needed. Rasul Sallallahu said it, that should be good enough. But just to give a different sort of layer of understanding, people tend to not be very good at recalling details of what happened in a conversation, even after only a few minutes, and the specific points that were laid out in an argument or whatever was said, but they remember how they feel, and that can be burned into them very quickly. And in fact, when you're talking with someone, whether it be the person in front of you or the audience, the logic and the reason you're going through and the way you're saying it is affecting their emotions, and that's primarily what's laying the foundation for their memories. So if you're having a good conversation and people are feeling good and they're feeling validated in certain things and not in others, it has an impact. It has a real impact. And not just on the person you're speaking to, but anyone sort of observing or watching the conversation. But if you do the opposite, as we've been saying, certain brothers are doing, then it affects them negatively against them. So not only does it mean it's not very effective, you don't win a debate by failing to change anyone's mind, and you don't win anything in a discussion by failing to convey Islam. That makes the whole enterprise completely pointless. And for people to actually receive the message, they need to be primed in a way that they are going to be positively accepting the message, which means they need to be emotionally in a positive state with regarding what's being said. You don't batter someone into submission into Islam. It doesn't work like that, right? And the same is true for really any topic. If they don't feel good about you, they're not going to take the message from you. So I just wanted people to maybe think a bit about what they're doing, the way they're giving dawah, and think about the impact they might be having on the next person, that has to listen to them. There's a lot of people, they come to, as soon as they hear someone talk about Islam, it reminds them of that other guy that made them feel bad. And now you have an uphill battle talking to them. This connects, tell me if I'm waffling, feel free to interrupt me. But it connects as well to this issue of, I baked and I destroyed him or whatever. It's relative to which community. Who views it as such. If your own bubble views that, well, you're just preaching to the converted, and it's completely useless. But what does the other community feel? And this is why, if you're talking to someone from a Christian background, or in my case, it's more focused towards atheists and people of Western philosophical background, you need to know how they think and what makes them feel good about what you're saying or repelled from what you're saying, in order to have any reasonable impact or discussion. And you don't win anything good, unless the other people feel good about you when they're receiving what you're saying. So there's the two sides. Obviously, the primary, from Islam and from what we're taught, and then modern neuroscience. We can look at it, and you can literally see the neurons. They're called like somatic markers and so on. They get activated, and people have these long-term visceral reactions built into them. You're literally putting, these people are literally putting walls and barriers against people receiving the message of Islam instead of conveying it to them. And it's terribly sad. Just a little bit of understanding really goes a long way. And that was it. That was what I really wanted to mention, was to encourage people to take a bit of time to look at the psychology side and reflect on the way they're conducting themselves and see if there's anything they can improve given that background knowledge.
That's very much appreciated, brother. Very, very interesting and insightful take there.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair.
وإياكم. Okay. مع السلامة.
I have to say, Akhi, you have to clip that brother, not the one who just talked, the one before him. I think he's historian, I think. You have to take that clip and post it, or like take a parts of it or post it or do something with it, because it was fantastic. Like so many different things he said that I wanted to say, but he said it all in one like brief monologue. And it was great. I think you should get him on again, actually. I think if he wants to, obviously. But yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, you know, it's a good point you make about clipping. Someone was speaking to me about this morning, earlier today, that we need someone, volunteers, please, because it's too much for any one of us or a few of us, perhaps, to do on our own. But if someone would be willing, or someone's will be willing to take clips and post them, obviously from a 3-hour stream, which we edit down to 2.5 hours invariably, and then from there you'll find, inshallah, 5 minutes, 3 minutes worthy of clipping. I hope at least 5-10% of it. Then that'd be great. So yeah, if someone would clip in general, that would be very much welcome. I see this thing, by the way, I've just been noticing there's some back and forth about, not being a true Salafi or associating with non-Salafis. I think this is a bit childish, frankly speaking. You have to listen, pay attention. If I brought a clip on, I made it very clear. I think if I disagree with the person, I would say that this person is from this persuasion. However, what he said is good. There's nothing wrong with this in Islam. You can quote even your enemy, you can bring them. And we have even, we mentioned when we bought a clip of Daniel, it said Sadaqah, from which is a play on the hadith, Sadaqah wa huwa kadhub, when the Prophet said he spoke the truth to you. He said this to Abu Huraira, yet even though he's a great liar, speaking about the shaitan, that even the shaitan can speak the truth, even though he's a great liar.
Yeah.
So you can bring people on if they corroborate something. And there's a saying, I forgot the Arabic, that one of the strongest witnesses is when it comes from witnessing, witnesses for you, attestation for you, is when it comes from your opponent, when it comes from your enemy. I forgot the saying. Basically, maybe you remember the saying, in Arabic, but
I'm aware of what you're talking about, but I don't want to say it and make a mistake. So.
Okay, no problem. That's homework for next week. But yeah, so it's no harm bringing people on. I can bring on Aristotle and Plato and Genghis Khan, freaking Napoleon if I want to. If they say something which is correct, doesn't mean we agree with them in everything. My milkman, I'm not in the religion of my milkman. You know what I mean? And this word association, I think people misunderstand the sayings of the Salaf when they say that if you what's the word, have a companionship with someone, you're on the religion, from the hadith, you're on the religion of your companion. What does that mean, companionship? Yeah, what does it mean to be a Khalil? Right? It doesn't mean that you just bring on a clip or you have someone who you agree on certain things. It doesn't mean, even amongst us, although we're all Salafi, I'm sure, we will have major disagreements, even perhaps in some matters of Aqidah and some branches of Aqidah, but there's a common good, or there's an element of more than an element of truth and usul that we want to promote, which is something from the Salaf, and so or in accordance with their methodology. So that's what we're united upon. So just because you bring on a clip or you bring on, you let someone speak who you may agree with 10% or 99%, that's no reflection on our iman, unless we endorse their misguidance, which hasn't been the case with any of the clips that were shown. So
to be clear as well, Akhi, right? There's this concept that's very important, which is spoken about in the books of fiqh a lot, as actually on a lot of issues like salah and etc., which is someone who's majhul al-hal, meaning someone I am unaware of his situation, his belief, his aqidah. So as example here right now, we had this podcast, and how many different individuals came and went, right? And I'm not going to mention anyone specific. I don't know these people in terms of their aqidah. I don't know them personally. I haven't had interaction with them. Me and them could have very, very important big disagreements, right? That these people online or on the chat, they're saying, oh, don't you know he says this, or don't you know he believes that? I don't know. And so as example, like when it comes to prayer, there's this concept that we have that when you pray behind someone who's majhul al-hal, he could be a kafir actually in reality. Right? Or who he could be, let's say some scholars, some people believe that praying behind Ahl Bid'ah is not acceptable, or let's say haliq or fasiq or whatever. If I don't know this individual, how can I be held accountable for any of these things if I don't know them? They're majhul to me. They're coming, they're saying haq, khalas, we're going to accept it from them. Do you see what I mean? So none of us can be held accountable for it. In none of what the Salaf are saying and the implications, what they say, apply to our situation at hand. So that's why even sometimes, right, there would be a situation where one of the Salafi would see someone with a specific group of individuals, and what from the Zahir, he says, oh, he's with them, so he's like them. But then later on, he would meet them and they would have interactions, right? And it would be clear that he wasn't with them, or he wasn't suhbah with them, he wasn't friends with them, he wasn't a companion with them, but there was a specific reason for him to being there, and he justified it, etc., etc., etc. So this is the same thing that happens with these, panels, right? The brother is going to bring on people. Some of us may know these individuals, some of us may not know. Even some of us may know them, but we know them for haqq. Meaning we've seen clips of them or videos of them. They didn't say anything wrong. What are we supposed to do? They're not coming on. Our responsibility is when people come on here, they're not going to spread misinformation. They're not going to spread haram or bid'ah. And we're just going to sit and say, yeah, you're right, brother. And we're going to shake our heads. That's our responsibility. Outside of that, you can bring a list of million issues. Wallah, this guy said this in this video, and this guy, we will never hear the end of it. We will never move forward. So this is what I think is important for the brothers to know.
Indeed. SubhanAllah, we have approached the 2 hour. If there's anything else, I don't think we have any more contributions unless someone wants to give closing statements. There was a lot more to go through, actually. I had a lot more clips. We haven't even got into the issue of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, who wanted to defend the honor of this greatest of the companions of Allah's Messenger, sallallahu radiallahu anhu. We'll hand over to Sister Aisha. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, sorry, brother. I just wanted or hoped that maybe we could advise, give some direct advice on what some of the individuals that have been mentioned can do. We don't have to mention names, but, for me, I'm very aware that they're not just going to listen to this podcast and say, okay, I'm going to come off, TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that. They're not going to come off. So what advice would we give to these young brothers, the young sisters, the older brothers, the bigger channels? For me, was really hoping that we could cover the topic of leadership, because I think in regards to the brothers specifically, they need to study that area. What does it mean to be a leader, and how does a leader communicate, and who does the leader look after, and what does that look like in the DAWAH scene and the YouTube scene and things like that. Because I feel like the reason why we are so shocked with some of the behavior is because we have had the honor in being around people that have been good examples, who have put out the right type of nurture, etc. But, by the looks of it, Allah knows best, they haven't had that same luxury. So I just feel like there's a responsibility there to sort of advise them or direct them so that maybe their dawah will get better.
So I like to say that I want to believe that we're all on the same team. I want to believe that these people are genuinely in it for Islam. I say I want to believe because many of the approaches some of these individuals take are as if they're doing the work of the enemy for them. Whether it's opening up a deluge of blasphemous insults and attacks upon the Prophet, whether it's misdirecting people from the call to Tawheed and the call to Islam and getting them into the weeds of nonsensical issues that are neither here nor there, whether it's just pushing the ego and promoting people who are non-knowledgeable to take the place of those who are more qualified, whatever it might be. Sometimes you wonder, are we on the same team here? Are these really people in it for Islam, or are they just using Islam as a grift in order to ingratiate themselves towards a Muslim audience to then profiteer off them and whether material gains or material gain or a gain of following, and then take that following off a cliff with them. So let's assume that we are on the same team. Then, brothers, if you want good, then the best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the commands that Allah instructed him to follow, and he's our exemplar par excellence in the Quran in terms of how to behave with our opponents, including those who abuse us, are there for a reason. It's because this is how you win the fight. And there seems to be oftentimes, again, we won't have time to get into it now, a misunderstanding of issues of territoriality, the fiqh of diyar, that what land are we in terms of an abode, the classification, Dar al-Harb versus Dar al-Islam, Dar al-Sul versus Dar al-Kufr, and what are our relations with the quote-unquote enemy? What is an enemy in this regard? If we understand the rules of engagement, essentially, then this should modify our behavior, because to summarize, in an Islamic state, brothers and sisters, you can enforce certain rules upon the opponent, which you can't do in the lands that we're in now, in the land of a non-Muslim. So if you're in the land of a non-Muslim, you don't pull the tiger's tail, you don't poke the bear so that bear comes around and bites you. So we have to behave ourselves according to our environment, understand our surroundings, understand the limitations, and then act accordingly. And don't think if the dog bites you, you bite the dog back. They are not our teachers. The non-Muslim Islamophobe or the abuser of the messengers, they are not our teachers. Our teacher is the teacher of all teachers, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he was taught, or rather he was given his instruction from above the seven heavens by the angel Gabriel. And those commands and those rules are basically put aside, it seems, for the sake of debating or engaging with your non-Muslim opponent. And I would hope those brothers and sisters, if they want to reach out privately, if they want to have private discussion or public discussion, they're more than welcome. They're more than welcome to come on stage. You'll find us, you take one step towards us, we'll take two steps towards you. We will hold your feet to the fire, because this religion does not belong to any one of us. It belongs to all of us, or rather belongs to Allah's deen. And if we see you stray and step out of line, the obligation upon each of us who can see that, just as we would hope you would call us to task, is to call each other to task and to make sure that we stay true to our claim of being Muslims.
SubhanAllah, I'm going to give real advice here. Wallahi, ikhwa, I'm going to say this. I've interacted with so many of the youth. I've looked at people have like stints where they practice and then they stop. I've looked at people who reach actually a pretty high level of knowledge, and then they have, intikasa, they stop practicing the religion. I've seen some crazy things. And subhanAllah, akhi, what it goes down to, I think a lot of people don't have this mindset where they can't be the water boy. I always say this, and just hear me out, right? Akhi, when you're in like a football team, or you're like in college or high school, there's always that person who's like in training, right? And he has to go through that period where he's like in the process of learning, etc. But it doesn't come with the allure of, you're a scholar, or you're a sheikh, or you're a mufti, or you're a person who people look back to for knowledge. That period of time, that training period of time, it's a test for your humility. It's a test. Can you study for the sake of Allah? Can you go through that process to better yourself for the sake of Allah without having to be the main character? Well, I think this is the main issue with these people. Everyone goes, and a lot of people fail this test. And what I mean by this is when people, they always say, study Islam, study religion, read this book, read that book. But what comes with it? You know what actually comes with it? It comes with nights without sleep. And I'm giving this is the reality of what studying is, what it entails to be better. And when you talk, because the sister says, let me give advice to these people. The advice to these people is a question that they should ask themselves. Are they willing to go through that process? There is no glitz, there is no glamour, there is no wallah sheikh, ya mufti, none of this. Are you willing to go through that period at home, in your home, in the masjid, alone? There is no one who's going to praise you. There is no one who's going to tell you anything, right? There is no sheikh, none of this. You are going to have to go through that period studying, and then you make mistakes, and then you read the book again, and then you misunderstand this verse, and you misunderstand this text, and you have to go to that hashia, and you have to go to that sharh, and this explanation. This is akhi what it takes. Wallah, I'm sorry, this is like, because a lot of people want cute responses. There is no cute, this is not cute, right? Like when the scholars, when they were in their, let's say, even pre-puberty, right? And after that, getting into the 20s or etc. These people, actually, they every single breathing moment they were studying. And I'm not telling people to do this. If you just do a couple of hours a day, you're really into this. You invest You have a schedule every day for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4. This is how you you become better. But this is the thing. That's why I mentioned the water boy thing. Are you willing to be that the rookie, right? Are you so you can actually? But this is the thing. Obviously, why do I mention this? Is because you can't go through that period except you have ikhlas. Because people who want cloud, they want the attention, they're gonna skip this whole phase. That's why you see people like Muhammad Hijab in the phase that they are in now, is because they skip that phase. They want to be the sheikh, they want to be the student of knowledge without putting any of the work. And also, no sheikh wants to be called the sheikh. And this mindset and idea, this only goes and comes into your mindset and your being after you go through this period of training. It is difficult. It takes time, and this is something the scholars always mention. You don't have to be you don't have to go do tasaddur, meaning you don't have to put yourself in the front line except you are ready. And as an example, obviously I'm on this podcast. Before I went on it, I spoke to scholars, people I know personally, in Khalij and otherwise, and I found something. They all pretty much told me and advised me, which is to be very careful. And a lot of them, outright told me, don't do it. Why? Because they told me you don't want to be in the limelight. You don't want to study. Keep studying. And alhamdulillah, I did the work, and I continue to do the work. But my point is that you should if you're not doubting yourself, if you don't doubt yourself continuously to even come out and talk about these issues, there's a problem with you. And you should be thinking at night, like, is this the right decision? Am I ready? Is this responsibility? Should it be given to someone like me? These people, they don't belittle themselves. I don't know why. All of student knowledge I know, they always look down on themselves. These people, they only look at themselves like they're the best. Do you see what I mean? This mindset is not present amongst them. And this mindset comes when you study the books of the scholars, because the scholars are so much better than us. They're so much more intelligent than us. They read so much more than we do. They care so much about, and I'm not even talking about mu'asirin. I'm talking about the a'imma. When you look at their biographies, every time you look at their biographies, every time you read them, you belittle yourself. So how can you think you are so great when you are reading the books of the greats, quote unquote, right? So to me, this mindset, it's like if you study, you have this mindset. That's why when I have an interaction with someone, it could be a couple of minutes, I instantly know his level of knowledge. I don't even need to ask him about this or that issue, because it's how you speak, it's how you talk about these issues, and how you move, how you walk, how your posture is. Wallahi, akhi, it's like this comes from farasa. And the more you know of the scholars, the more you interact with them, right? And the more you read from them, you will automatically be closer to them in terms of your actions, the way you think, etc., etc., etc. So I think, because the sister asked this question, what would I advise them? I would advise them to put in the work, and put in the work as a rookie. You're not a sheikh, you're not a scholar, you're not a student, you're a rookie. Put in the work. If you want those, and by the way, when you put in the work, you're not going to want any person's attention or validation. You know who you are and you know your level of knowledge. And by the way, the last thing I'm going to say, anyone, Muhammad Hijab, etc., don't ever think that the people who have knowledge, they don't know what your level of knowledge is. Everyone knows what you are. Everyone, from what you say and what you speak about in these issues that have discussion, we know what you've read, what you haven't read. I'm sorry, I'm not part of those people, but I'm just saying the people who have the knowledge on these issues, they know what you read. They know what you've read, what you don't read. You know how knowledgeable you are, this is all known. You may trick the awam, that's fine, but the people who study, they know this. And that's why, akhi, I say, when you go through this period, these things will automatically come. And as well, to be fair, when you interact with the scholars will humble you. I've had interactions, and these are still in my mind after so many years, where I've been humiliated in the majlis. I've been scorned, or I've been like, the sheikh called me a jahil, and why are you talking about this? These are things you have to have in your mind. These people don't have interactions like this, and everyone they interact with constantly tells them they're so intelligent and they know so much. So they need to be humbled. But this is the reality. In the West, you won't be humbled. You need to humble yourself. But I think that, akhi, you said that I don't know if these people are truly sincere or not, and we will give them the benefit of the doubt. And I myself, I doubt their sincerity based on their actions. And I do not think they can rise above the challenge of questioning themselves. That's the real discussion. Can you question yourself and your intellect and your knowledge? Because everyone actually knows himself at the end of the day. If you put in the work, you put in the work. And by the way, the most amazing thing about putting in the work is that no one sees it. And when you study, no one sees it. You study at home. There's no one that's gonna tell you, wallahi, or that's why some people, they go to the masjid. Obviously, I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying the main work is done at home. You yourself, and Allah will be watching you. That's it.
Yeah, self-awareness is very important. I absolutely agree. Granted, we are all different types of people. We're coming from different backgrounds. We have different personalities. So naturally, our dawah is going to reflect that, and that is okay. In fact, and I would argue that it's essential that there's different types of people and different types of personalities, so everyone else has someone to connect with. The problem is, however, whatever your dawah style is, it has to be something that we truly believe, evidence-based belief, that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do himself or approve of. Like, that's the key, and you can only get that from a place of knowledge. And if I was to advise anyone, obviously I'm a sister, so I'm inclined to advise the sisters. Dawah does look different for us, and that's something that we need to accept, not because we are less than. In fact, I would argue the opposite. We need to know what that looks like. We need to know what that sounds like. We need to understand hayat. We need to understand hijab. We need to understand how we communicate. We need to understand what subjects we should cover and subjects we should avoid. We need to know our place in this, and that has to come from self-awareness. We need to be able to know our lane and our station. And also, in regards to the sisters, although the brothers, they have this issue as well, when it comes to emotions or emotional outbursts, it has no place in dawah. What's the phrase? If the kitchen is hot, get out of it. I'm killing the phrase there. But there's no excuse for recklessness when it comes to emotions or getting personally offended when certain things are said. Obviously, it's hard to hear, and I'm not saying that we should just submit to someone's bad behavior, but there needs to be wisdom, and there needs to be sort of a maturity that we don't expect from people who haven't got divine guidance or haven't accepted it yet. There's a certain level of maturity that we should have, that we shouldn't expect from someone who doesn't know anything about Allah or the Prophet and are coming from a place of misinformation, stereotypes and preconceived ideas. We need to have the wisdom and the empathy to understand that some of these people have been conditioned with lies and slander and fake evidence, so we have to come from a place of mercy. We have to see these people as our fathers, our mothers, our sisters, our brothers, our sons, our daughters, and we need to advise and act accordingly. And the Prophet and the Seerah are a good representation of that. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam communicated and was able to communicate with all sorts of different types of people, and that's knowledge, and that's wisdom, and that's empathy, mercy. It's everything. So we need to know what that looks like. Again, I agree with the brother, that has to come from and can only come from a place of knowledge and good character and wisdom. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents, as they say.
Jazakallah khair. And the last word to you, bro Yusuf.
Just off the back of what kind of Qaisi was saying, I think not being in an echo chamber, having close people who will take you to task and call you out. There's a level of humility that it takes to have that kind of environment, but I think it's important. And then introspecting consistently. So you know, how is this coming across? How am I coming across, et cetera, as the days go by. Just kind of keeping yourself, taking yourself to task, right? And a big part of that is just not being in an echo chamber. So if you got a lot of yes men, you know, make sure you get somebody around you that's going to tell you the truth. So, yeah.
I appreciate it, brother. Well, thank you all for staying with us as long as you did from around the world. And we shall catch you next week. And from all of us here is a good night or a good morning for some of you. And an assalamu alaikum.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك